Let's start. Let me start share screen. This one. Share screen. Okay, you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Hong Kong 4. I think I have a Hong Kong 5 coming next week. Yeah. So I will be talking about two protests or two riots situation. One is in 2014, which is also known as either Umbrella Revolution, sometimes Umbrella Movement, or Occupy Movement, or the Occupy Central Movement, and so forth. One of the common characteristics of that movement is that you can see a lot of yellow things. So here is a little summary of what's happening. This is the government center.
超出我嘅預料咯，完全想像唔到會有咁樣嘅集結。
咁我會覺得今日咁樣嘅公民抗命係證明咗香港人佢哋可以做嘅嘢係超出我哋作為組織者嘅想像。
我係唔會辭職嘅，因為咧我要繼續做好普選嘅工作。I'm now appointing the Chief Secretary to represent Hong Kong government to meet with representatives of the Hong Kong Federation students to discuss constitutional development matters.
Come on, next screen. Come on. Okay, then we move forward to 2019 and 2020 Hong Kong protests. The current protest was triggered by the Figurative Offender Amendment Bill. This bill is now abandoned. The idea is that Hong Kong and some of the countries, there's no legal arrangement for criminals to be extradited back to the place where a crime is committed. Under the common law, the only place to trial a crime is the place where the crime is committed. So this is triggered by a couple, a man and a woman. Okay, they go to Taiwan for a holiday, and during that holiday, the man found out that this woman was pregnant with another man's child. So I think jealousy or something, she was killed and was dumped in the Taiwan MTR station before this man escaped back to Hong Kong. He used his girlfriend's bank card to take money out of the girl's bank accounts. Of course, the parents of that woman asked where the woman was, but of course get no answer. As the money is taken out from the bank, the police charged this man for stealing money, and during the interrogations, he admitted that he killed the woman. But because there's no extradition law between Taiwan and Hong Kong, he is not able to be sent to Taiwan for trial. So this is why the Hong Kong chief executives want to amend the Figurative and Offenders Amendment Bill to breach that loophole. But unfortunately, the oppositions seize on this bill and say this is where the mainland China may extradite people from Hong Kong into China for trial for political reasons. So with that objection, the bill is changed so that the chief executive will have to ensure that the request for extradition must not be related to any political aims. The trial to whether a figurative will be extradited to an area will be carried out in the courts in Hong Kong, and the ultimate court in Hong Kong is in Hong Kong. So finally, the final say of whether a person will be sent to somewhere else to trial lies in the court in Hong Kong, not anywhere else. Unfortunately, this has started the protest, and then it eventually erupted into a riot. So let's look at some of the available pictures and so forth. The approval rating of the government and police plunged to the lowest point ever. Okay, so these are some of the images. You will notice that this time the protesters is not dressed in yellow. Instead, they are now all dressed in black. And they are also heavily equipped with protective gears like helmets, goggles, and respirators. Come on. And they again blockade the roads, set roads on fire, using all the rubbish. Somehow my computer is not obeying my command. Come on, I want you to change screen. I'm just showing you some pictures, okay? And these pictures is downloaded from internet, so they are commonly available. Come on, why you have to wait so long? Come on. So the violence level this time is much higher than the 2014. You see a lot of burnings in the streets and damage to properties and so forth. Let's come on. Let me see whether I can switch over to another browser to move faster. Next one. Bamboo poles, etc. being used. Come on. Let me see whether I can display this. And they are throwing petrol bombs. You can see that this rioters is throwing a petrol bombs. They use arrows to shoot at the police. You can see that there's a bow and arrow here. and they light up the arrow and then shoot it to the police. Come on.
Albert, nowadays everyone blames the coronavirus for any problems like this.
Yeah. Well, this is another shooting of arrows. I think I need to find out a better way to display all this next time.
But Albert, we've all seen most of that on TV.
Okay, so let me just
That's
switch to discussion right away. Okay, instead of let's switch to stop the. Okay, so you have seen all these pictures. So there's a lot of property damage, and actually included in here there's several accidents, several important instances. There are twice police shooting the protesters, two times. One on the 1st of October 2019, another one on the 11th of November 2019. So 2 times, 2 young men was shot by police. There are 1 person killed during the riots. One of a cleaner in the Northern Territories was hit by a brick and then died subsequently. So there's 1 death directly out of these riots. Another important, there are at least 2 very serious instances. One is a police was exits are being thrown to a police so that he got about 40% of his skin burnt and need to get skin replacement. Another one is a man, a construction site workers being toasted with flammable liquid and then heat and light up, and he also suffered very serious burns over his body. These 2 persons are still in hospital at the moment. I think no, both of them might have already go back to home, but their treatment haven't finished. So this is what happened up to now. Then at the beginning of 2020, we have the coronavirus. So the protest level dropped significantly. And on the 30th of June, China introduced national security law for Hong Kong. And that law came into effect at 11 o'clock at night on 30th June this year. And then there were a protest again on the 1st of July. During that protest, one protesters used a knife to attack a police, and that person tried to escape to England at night. So the attack occurred at around 4 p.m. on 1st of July. Then he boarded a plane to England at about midnight, but he was captured by police on the plane. So up to now, Hong Kong is much more stable. The riots has stopped. So that's what happened. Okay, discussion, questions.
what I don't understand is, I think the leaders who come for the movement, if you call it the umbrella or the democracy, pro-democracy, keep getting arrested. Although the leaders get arrested, people stand up and take their place. But this can only happen for so long. In the end, no one wants to stand up and become to the pinnacle of the, you get known by the police and sooner or later you get arrested and life in prison. So how can the movement continue if they keep losing leaders?
Well, now, I have been reporting on this since May last year. Okay, just before my prostate cancer operation, then I started reporting that my YouTube subscriber is almost 100,000 people at the moment, 98,000 something. So I have been looking at this for a long time. So I have collected a lot of content, and of course, all this content I will produce. One of the scene I remember very vividly is sometime last year in around December, a protesters riding on a motorcycle held up a whole lump of Hong Kong dollars. Now, Hong Kong dollars nominations is the most valuable note is 1,000 Hong Kong dollars. He is holding up a whole stack of that notes in a hand in public, riding the bicycle, shouting protest words. Now, before that, the protest died down quite a bit because one of the funding agency of the protest was cracked down by the police. So suddenly the fund stopped it. The Hong Kong protest level dropped. Then when that guy come out with that money, the protest number rises again. So it convinces me that there is funding for these people to come out, and they treat it as a job. Now, remember, these men are all hiding behind masks and goggles and helmets, and they're all dressed in black. So it is very difficult, at least to them, it's very difficult to identify who is who. The police can only capture so many. At the moment, there's about 9,000 arrests, but the government have only prosecuted approximately 1,200. So there's a long way to go. Of these 9,000 people arrested, about 60% are students. Of that students, half of these students, approximately 60% of these students were university students. The youngest people arrested is only 13 years old. So he should be in year 7, something like that. 13 years old. Among all these, the leaders, we know who is the opposition leaders. For example, Martin Lee, or I know the Chinese name, but I can't remember the English name. But all of them, all the so-called leaders, do not have their children arrested. None of them send their children out. So they are only asking the common people to come out to protest while they stay behind the scene. I have very strong evidence I don't know whether my evidence is admissible in court, but I have collected quite a bit of evidence saying that this protest is fully funded. So where is the source of funding? Well, the source of funding come from two main areas. One from Taiwan, another one from US. So if we want to understand this problem, we need to look at the bigger picture, the international politics. In terms of international politics, China rises. Okay, China has been rising for about 40 years. It overtakes United States as the largest economy in terms of purchasing power is 2014. And this is the first major protest I just reported to you today, 2014. Now, what happened before 2014? Before 2014, on 2011, China overtakes Japan to become the second largest economy. In 2012, Obama started the process of refocus of Asia or Pacific refocus, something like that. Basically, that strategy is to bring 2/3 of US Navy into the Pacific Ocean. Now, to the Chinese, which country in this Pacific region would attract 2/3 of American Navy? Well, looking around, there's none other than China themselves. So the competition of China and United States started around 2011. And all these protests, all this training take time. So by 2014, we have the first major protest in Hong Kong, the Occupy Central movement, Umbrella movement, etc. And these guys, the leaders in the Umbrella movement, becomes the opposition political figures in Hong Kong. For the next 5 years, they continue to develop and their tactics becomes much more violent. So by 2019, when we see the same protesters coming out, their tactics and their equipments and their everything is much more violent. You have seen that on the screen. So for the Chinese government, the question is how to control Hong Kong. What can they do? Put you in an example. For example, here we are in Melbourne. Okay, Melbourne have a serious riots happening, trying to overthrow the Australian government. So what will the Australian government do? So in Hong Kong, there's a large riots happening all over Hong Kong, trying to overthrow the Hong Kong government. What will the Chinese government do? Yeah, I understand. To stop this, I have argued that it will stop this year after the Taiwan election, which I'm right. But unfortunately, there's another reason overlapping the same thing is the COVID-19. This year, we saw a lot less riots than last year because the funding stopped it. But when the funding resumes, then the riots start again. Very clear signals. So there are...
Albert,
yeah?
Albert, what is your comparison of the Chinese and Hong Kong situation with Australia? I would question. I would say that the comparison is state rights. Now, if somebody protests that the Commonwealth government is taking power from the states, power that's in the Australian Constitution. I would see that as being more of a comparison with what's happening in Hong Kong, where you've got the 1997 agreement between England or Britain and and China. That's probably a more logical conclusion.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I see it.
Oh, sorry, I have blocked several people outside in the waiting room. Sorry about that. That's
probably a more logical conclusion.
now, okay. Let me make it clear what is the Sino-British Joint Declaration is. Okay, it is called a declaration, so that means it is statements made by two governments. Sorry about that. Okay, so somebody might need to turn down their microphone. Let me make it clear what is the Sino-British Joint Declaration is. The sign is coming from my statements made by two governments. Hey, why is somebody might need to turn down their microphone.
Or ideally, we should all mute ourselves unless we're speaking. And then the background noise in our own environment will not be conveyed by the microphones. So I'm going to go back to mute now. But Albert, I did want to say, I think the facts that you present are very reasonable, objective facts. But I see Hong Kong as something that I'll say we Westerners, so Australia and most of the rest of North America and Europe, we focus on that. But I think the real picture of China that we should be looking at is a much, much bigger picture. I think that Hong Kong is a province or state in China, and it will be dealt with as any rebellious province or state is dealt with. We have a lot of sympathy because we've got background with them, but the reality is no one will be able to stop the Chinese government from establishing control there. But I think there's a much bigger picture of China's interaction with the rest of the world. So somebody's radio is still talking or something like that. I'm going to remute myself now.
Okay. Okay. Now, the Joint Declaration, the key concept of Joint Declaration is give Hong Kong back to China. So China has the sovereignty over Hong Kong. Okay. So from that point onwards, whatever happened in Hong Kong is Chinese domestic policy, because that is the whole concept. But what about the agreements that is put down in the Joint Declaration? Okay, that agreement is put down in the Hong Kong Basic Law, and the Hong Kong Basic Law is being monitored with the British government until 1st of January 2010. So after the handover, 1997, there is a 3 years period whereby there is a joint committee between the British and the Hong Kong and China to look at the execution of this basic law in Hong Kong up to 1st of January 2010. 2000. Okay, 3 years. About 3 years observation. If there's at that point there's no problem, then the committee dissolved. From that point onward, Hong Kong becomes a pure domestic issue for China. Now, under the agreement there are two exceptions where Hong Kong do not have autonomy. One is foreign policy. That means all foreign policy should be handled by China. The second is security or defense. And the defense also is a symbol of sovereignty from China. And so Chinese PLA, the People Liberation Army, has stationed in Hong Kong to replace the British Army where Hong Kong was still a colony. And the timing is very interesting. The PLA have been standing by at the border on the night before the handover. So the handover is on 1st of July 1997. So they march over the border at the strike of midnight, symbolically taking over Hong Kong. So Hong Kong's defense and foreign affairs is mainland China government's responsibility. The rest is Hong Kong's responsibility. And that has been going on all right. In terms of selection of leaders, the executive officer in Hong Kong, the chief executive of Hong Kong, who is now previously under the British rule, the governor has always been appointed by the Foreign Department of the UK government. Hong Kong people never have any say about that. In the basic law, it has been stipulated that the Hong Kong chief executive will be selected through a committee by mutual consent. So on the 2010 or 11, something like that, before the 2014, Hong Kong proposed have a universal suffrage for selection of the chief executive. So every person in Hong Kong can vote for the chief executive. But the nominees must pass by a committee of 3,000 members from Hong Kong. The opposition objected that 3,000 members committee to ratify the candidature of Hong Kong's chief executive, and therefore it reverted back to the current system. The current system under the basic law, the Hong Kong chief executive is elected by, I think, a committee of about 3,000 people. Not everybody have a vote. So that is the history. So I see you shaking your head, Albert.
Look, no big deal. I was just surprised at the huge number, 3,000.
3,000 is not a small number, but it's not a very big number as well. And the 3,000 has its own composition speculated in the basic law. Basically, this 3,000 is divided into two groups. One group is based on geography. Every geographic location, every small region there is a little like our council, something like that, and the council is able to send one person into that selection committee. So that is the base level. And the second level is by profession. So for example, I'm a teacher. The teacher profession have a certain number of seats in that selection committee as well. So if you are an architect, you have the architect associations got some seats there. You have doctors got some seat there. Lawyers, another some seat there. So there are a lot of these different functional groups they call. After the functional groups, there are also the legislature. That means the representative from the Hong Kong Legislative Council. So there's a number of people from the Hong Kong Legislative Council can be entered into that selection committee. So the 3,000 selection committee is pretty diverse. We have all sorts of different people making up the whole 3,000 committees. So it's not exactly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Sort of, but not exactly because you have different compositions. Yes, John?
Albert,
Yeah.
where do you see this heading to? Do you see an end to these riots in the future? Can you sort of forecast? It seems to me to as you said, university students and young adults seem to be the predominant participants in these riots. Where do people of our age and middle age stand in this situation?
The split between the two sides. Okay, they call it the blue and the yellow. Okay. The
Right.
blue are those pro-government. The yellow are the anti-government. So there are two camps there. Okay. Initially, for example, just about 1 year ago, or maybe a little bit more than 1 year ago, there is a lot of middle ground, people with no color, and then there is a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the yellow. Okay, so that was the situation, say 1.5 years ago. What happened during the last year is dividing the middle part into either the yellow camp or the blue camp. The people is now very split in terms of opinion. Now, what is the exact split location? We don't know, because that is something every politicians and political scientists want to know. But I can give you an indication. In November last year, there is a district election, okay? District level advisory committee elections. Now, these committees are only advisories. They have no actual power. In that election, out of 430 something seats, about 400 are occupied by the yellow camp. The blue camp lost very badly. Okay, before the re-election, it is approximately a half split. Half of them blue, half of them yellow, with blue a little bit more, the pro-government a little bit more. But last year, November, the district election is all the way, it's almost all yellow at the moment. Another election is coming up this September, another 2 months later. September, this one is with power because it is the election of the legislative council members. So it is like electing our parliaments, okay? So this is the real one. At the moment, the yellow camp just held a pre-election last Saturday and Sunday, so just 2 days ago. The total number of turnout is 586,000 people. So out of 7 million people who is able to vote, about 600,000 come out for the pre-election to decide who is going to stand for the seats in the yellow camp.
So not a very large proportion of the population.
No, it's not. It is very small. Okay, very, very small in a sense. Now, in terms of the largest protest, the largest number of people participating in the protest, probably is last year, about 7th of July 2019. They claim to have 2 million people coming out for a peaceful protest. Some computer scientists had do a actual count of the number. How they do it? Because they are marching from one part of Hong Kong to the other part. In between that, they are mainly going through a main street. and there is a pedestrian bridge over the bridge. So the research committee, research scientists put video cameras on the bridge to watch how many people have actually passed through the bridge. From that calculation, that so-called 2 million people coming out is around 500,000. So it is about 4 times exaggerations by the protesters, and that is almost the same as those people coming out to vote in September, in December, Saturday and Sunday. So now some of them is online. So that 500,000 is about 60% online. The other one go in person to the so-called voting booths. But this is not a formal voting because it is a pre-election voting. But the numbers have come out already, so we know that it has a that hard supporter or around 500,000. That group is that hard supports. What about the rest? The whole 7 million people. As I said, initially the two extremes are very small. The amount of them we're probably looking at together, add up together at around at most 2 million people at the two ends. Through the last year, it looks like everybody shift to the yellow camp. But that election is only for advisory committees. It's not a real power committee. So the real strength test is this September. Which side it will goes to. From what I have seen after 1st of July this year, after the national security law passed and become law in Hong Kong, looks like this bulk of people suddenly all shift to the blue. Now, every year, 1st of July is their protest day, because that's the day when Hong Kong returned to China. So they hold a protest every year on 1st of July. This year, 1st of July, the number of people coming out to protest is less than 50,000. Dropped at least tenfold from the previous protest. So a lot of people may be scared by the government, or they have changed their position, because a lot of Hong Kong people really suffers from what had happened last year. The economy is down by about 60%. Hong Kong based the economic structure of Hong Kong is two-sided. Hong Kong is a financial center, so there is a group of people working for the financial sector which is pretty well off. And so far, Hong Kong's financial center positions haven't changed, so it is still a very vibrant financial center on that side. On the other side, for the majority of the Hong Kong people, there is not much industry for them to work on. For the middle class and for the lower class, there's not much job. Probably there will be a group of people working for the government employees, and there are a group of teachers. Teachers a very large section of the middle class, and a large section is nurses and doctors. So these middle class are all okay because their salary is almost guaranteed by the government. But for the rest, most of them work in service industry, like tourism, like restaurants, etc. Because Hong Kong have no industry anymore. These people suffer a lot because with riots happening almost every day, there's no tourists. Before these riots, Hong Kong had a lot of tourists coming to Hong Kong as a shopping center, shopping place. Hong Kong's goods are known to be cheap and of high quality. But now the tourist number dropped by about 95%. So only a very small amount of people coming to Hong Kong for shopping, for tourists. And among of these, most of them come from mainland China. And the mainland people is not coming to Hong Kong anymore because there's no point you go to somewhere to be hit by protesters. Once you speak Mandarin, you will be attacked. That's ridiculous. So people just doesn't come. So Hong Kong economy on the top end is okay, but the bottom end is no good, very bad. So a lot of people, I think, is very short-sighted, supporting the yellow because that hinders on them. Maybe I have my own philosophy about politics. Maybe one day I will talk about that, and then let you understand how I think about these positions. But anyway, that will be a long talk. Any more questions? Now, if not, then next time I will concentrate on the national security law being implemented by China onto Hong Kong. So next time we'll... Yeah?
Completely different subject, but how is your health?
My health is okay. I gained back a lot of weight because I intentionally tried to lose weight for my operation last year. After that, there's a period when I should have high protein, high energy food, so I regain weight. But now I have to try to lose some weight. But I don't think I can.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, I will try. I will try.
No, look, but I know you had a lot of problems, particularly last year, and yeah, I'm glad things have.
Last year was really bad for myself and my wife. I have my own major operations. She have her own major operations. Her is operations. I is operation without S. So.
How is your wife?
She's getting on fine.
Okay.
There are still a lot of follow-up to do, obviously. Just like I have a lot of follow-up as well. But the follow-ups are all good. Is basically
please
monitoring
pass on my best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please pass on my best.
Okay, thank you. So we'll see you next time. And I need to improve the presentation. It's too slow. I need to find another method to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.